Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Monday, May 3rd, 2021. And our top stories today, we'll take a look at the Dutch pension system and how they engage members. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Dr. Thomas Post. He's an associate professor of finance and a behavioral scientist at Maastricht University. Thomas, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Good morning, Jeffrey. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And this is part of our, what I would say, around the world coverage to bring all viewers of BRN, whether they be in the US or around the globe, because we have a big international following now, an understanding of different systems and how people are engaging in terms of retiring. So first thing I want to do, Dr. Post, Thomas, is let's talk about the Dutch pension system. I think that would be a good place to start. What are some of the key features of this system? I think my understanding in talking to you in the green room, this is really a unique system. It seems to be working very well. So give us your perspective on that.
Yeah, the Dutch system indeed seems to work very well, at least according to, there's this Mercer Global Pension Index. And over many years, the Netherlands is either in place number one or number two. This year, we're number one. And to put this a bit into perspective, so Canada is number 9 and the US is number 18. So that's, we're pretty sure we have a good system. It's also very, very large in terms of assets, pension assets compared to GDP. So we talk about 200% pension assets in relation to GDP. So that's actually quite a lot. The US is roughly 150%. Now, the system itself, it, like many systems, contains out of 3 pillars. So we have a basic state pension, that's pillar 1. Then we have pillar 2. These are funded occupational pension plans and private savings. But private savings are not so important. They make up roughly 5% of retirement income. So it's really the basic pension and the occupational pension funds. Now, the basic pension, I think that's very special to the system. It's a universal state pension. So that means regardless of whether you worked or whether you didn't work, it only matters if you lived so and so many years in the Netherlands, then you get this pension. Yeah, that's something like around for a single household, roughly, depends a bit on the tax situation, but we talk about in US dollars, about $1,200. Yeah, so not means that you're just getting this pension. So it is great protection in terms of poverty line protection. Then we have the funded occupational plans, and they're large. More than 90% of all employees are covered by these plans. They're mandatory. So when I signed my contract at Maastricht University, I wouldn't ask whether I would like to participate or not. I'm just automatically enrolled in the plan, and I have to stay in the plan. Now, these plans, they can be corporate plans, so for one firm, they can be industry-wide, or they are for certain professions, like for doctors. These plans are mostly DB plans. Some are DC, but most are DB plans. Not in a very strict sense, meaning that in case the plan is underfunded, so then pensions can be decreased. So there is some risk at the side of the employee, but funds have very strong incentives to stay funded. The average funding ratio, it's also interesting to compare that to the US, is right now 102%. So meaning in terms of there are pension liabilities out there, but there are on average enough assets to cover those pension benefits. And what I would think is a final striking feature of the system, it makes participants very easy to look up where they are. So there's a government-sponsored portal. You can log in, it's one mouse click, one password, and then you see the amount of your basic state pension, plus from all the different employers you may have had, aggregated the pension amounts. How much do you have today, and how much on expectations will that be per month and gross and net amounts once you retire?
Yeah. Well, Thomas, no system is perfect. Are there areas, anything built by man is not perfect, right? So are there areas, clearly the Dutch system seems to be working. It's ranked number 2, as you said, according to the Mercer Global Index. But are there areas that you, when you look at this system, that are, lawmakers, regulators, people within the pension and retirement industry, either within the Netherlands or the European Union, for example, identify as areas for improvement?
Now, the system, some say, I'm not sure whether I should agree with that opinion, that the system became too expensive for employers. And that's also one of the reasons we right now talk about reforms that would put more risk to the participant. We are still not talking about, like in the US, a DC system, but still more risk in terms of building up pensions. Participation in the fluctuation of capital markets will be put to participants. So that's one point of critique. Another one, which I sometimes hear from participants, it is a system which automatically adjusts. So if there's not enough money in a fund, benefits are decreased. Expected benefits for people contributing or current benefits. And that is something people don't like. I can understand why, because quite often the expectations back in the days, 10 years, 20 years ago, was this is carved into stone, it's rock solid, nothing can happen. And now people see, hey, we experience some pension cuts. And so that's, I would say the critique here is there is a mismatch between what people thought would happen to their pensions and what has actually happened to the pensions. We can also say that's a plus of the system in a sense. We see that in many countries that systems go the wrong way, they're underfunded and nothing happens. Here in the Netherlands, it's pretty pragmatic, the approach. We don't wait and see, and we don't hope that this will all recover. No, we act now to make sure that down the road there's enough money left to pay pensions.
Yeah. And Thomas, I mean, you have a lot of expertise around what we call here in the States behavioral finance. These are great systems. As I always say, and other people say, you can build a great system, but if people don't take advantage of it, they don't know how to use it. What good is the system? So how important is, and in our second segment, we're going to get into a lot more details about your research, but in terms of the Dutch system, behavioral finance, how has that been implemented? I know you've done a lot of work in this particular area.
Now, behavioral finance quite often tries to use subtle tricks to nudge people in a certain direction. This is, for many aspects of the system here, not needed. You have no choice whether to enroll or not. So there's no nudge needed to enroll people. Quite often you don't have a choice on the asset allocation. That's decided by the fund for you. But we need behavioral economics and finance insights if you think about engagement. So on the one hand, the system does everything for you, but what it makes with participants, it makes them extremely passive. So when we talk about engagement, that would mean just once in a while, look at where you stand. Can you expect enough pensions or not? And if not, what can you do about it? And this is something with a system, if anything is taken out of your hands, only a small fraction of people actually is concerned with their pensions and once in a while logs on, goes to the website and checks how much pension to expect. This is where behavioral economics can play a role to help to increase engagement.
Yeah. Well, Thomas, I want to take a very quick break. This is a really important topic. It's gotten a lot of mention here in the States and throughout the world. When we come back, we'll talk to Thomas about some of his research and how behavioral finance has been implemented around not only the Dutch system, but the European Union. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Dr. Thomas Post of Maastricht University. Thomas, thank you so much for staying with us this morning.
It's a pleasure, Jeffrey.
Yeah, and you know, I want to spend this segment talking more about some of your research in behavioral finance and also learn how not only the Dutch system, but also the European Union is implementing BFI within its retirement program. So let's first talk about your research. Where have you been most focused on these past 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, so I have a strong focus in the past 12, and it's actually much more. It's actually the last couple of years we talk about in using behavioral economics knowledge to increase pension plan participant engagement. Yeah, so that participants take the first step, just log on and look whether or not they have enough pensions. And to give you an idea how severe the problem is, so we have surveys in the Netherlands, but results across the world are not dramatically different. But only 1 in 3 of participants, they open the letter to read their annual pension statement. Yeah, so they're not even, the other 2/3 are not even opening the letter. Some 10% say in a survey, once in a while, I look at my pensions. There are some fun facts. So then there have been questions. If you have the choice between to vacuum clean or iron, or to look into your pension, most people say, well, then I vacuum clean or then I iron. But this is really severe that people are not engaged with their pension. And the question we ask ourselves is, now, how does it come? If you want to do something about it, first we have to understand what's going on. Now, there are multiple reasons we and colleagues figured out. Pensions are far away. So you procrastinate, you always think, well, I know it's important, but you know what? I can do it tomorrow. Tomorrow you think, I know it's important, but I can do it tomorrow, and so on. We also see there are biases that people think, well, I have anyway more than enough. Why should I check? Or they have anxiety. So they think, it's a bit like going to the doctor. I better don't go to the doctor or I check my pension because maybe what I will see is not what I like. And it's a complex problem. If you ask me for myself, just give me the perfect number. How much do I need to save each month? I don't know exactly the answer. And I like to believe, at least I have some education that would help me with answering that. This is the case for many people. It's just a complex, difficult to understand situation. Luckily,
Go ahead. Were you going to continue? I'm sorry.
Yep, no problem. No, but luckily we have the toolbox of behavioral economics. Over many years, psychologists, economists, and people from marketing developed tricks that we call nudging that help us to move people slightly in a certain direction when it comes with financial or other decision making. And to give you, I can talk about two studies that we did with actual pension plan participants in the Netherlands in order to increase their engagement. So in one study, our goal was to, well, an email would come from the pension fund to participants, and that email has a link that says, hey, by the way, here's our great pension magazine. We have the call to action, read this or that article in the pension magazine. Not too many participants usually do that. So what did we do? We first of all did a study with these pension fund participants where we checked what kinds of other participants, peers, do they think are trustworthy, or they just identify with them. So these are people like me. This is my age. These are people that I find similar. Knowing that, we went back to the email text and changed it. Not just like in the traditional nudging sense, we use these peer effects and social norms by saying, hey, by the way, many others also read this report. We match that. So if we knew somebody is in that age bracket or have this and these characteristics, we told them in the email, by the way, people with these and these similar characteristics also read this article in the pension magazine. And luckily, we found out that after all, some 30 to 50% more of people with the right email went to the pension magazine and actually read the article.
And and I guess what we're talking about here is you can't change who human beings are. And I know you mentioned procrastination. Look, we don't like bad news. There have been, and we're not talking about tricking people either. We're talking about making sure, and there's a responsibility here. I think it falls in a lot of places, but want to get your perspective on this. It falls clearly on the employer. They want to get people retired because they can hire new employees and bring new workers in. They want to infuse that into their workforce. Maybe the government has a purpose here, but also the individual. We have a responsibility as individuals to make sure that we're doing the right thing on behalf of ourselves and our families. So we're not talking necessarily, doctor, about tricking people. We're trying to get people more informed, and unfortunately, human behavior kind of runs counter to that.
Jeffrey, I cannot agree more to what you said. If I say trick, all the time I developing these interventions and testing them, one big word that is at the beginning of the process is this ethical? So what I will never do, I will not lie to people. If I write others read this article, I need to have evidence beforehand that some others read this article in the first place. Or what also guides my work is thinking about now, if I use this or that wording in an email and my study is published, people hear about it, will they be angry? And will they feel, hey, this is not right, this is not fair? And if I have the feeling they would react like that, that would tell me, no, we are not going to do this intervention. So it has to be something where people think, okay, maybe it was a small trick, but in the end of the day, they wanted to help me to do something useful.
Yeah. And I guess the last question here, doctor, is, we had a show last week on global aging. And so, there's clearly an issue not only here in the States, but all around the European Union, Asia, Africa. We've got aging populations. We've got declining birth rates. And by the way, we're living longer, which is, I think, a good thing. But when it comes to retirement benefits and savings, look, you're going to need money to last a longer period of time. So, this is I guess my point is, and my final question to you is, this is something that policymakers need to really be aware of and then work together with the private industry to develop tactics to improve overall savings rates.
I agree also on this one. So we are growing older. So it's each year a couple of months that, not for the Dutch, but that's worldwide the trend in most, not all countries. People get older. And it is a problem, and we have to react. We cannot just wait and see, hey, let's hope that at the end of the day, there's enough money left. And the way this works over here is that, for example, for the basic state pension, there is a formula. So right now we know it will gradually increase to 67, so the age at which you can claim the pension. But each year there's a check on the demographic development. So if people get older, then the pension kicks in later. Now, this is an easy solution for the solvency of such a system. For people, it has challenges, of course. If you need to work longer, we hope that we also can stay in good health for longer. So this is something also policymakers are concerned with, firms are concerned with, it is something we have to act on. We cannot change it. We may not like the fact that we have to work longer, but it is what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would prefer to retire 20 years ago, but unfortunately that is not in the cards for me and my wife. Dr. Post, unfortunately we're going to have to leave it here. Really enjoyed talking about the pension system in the Netherlands, the Dutch pension system, and also your research. And look, we look forward to having you back on again very soon.
Thank you, Jeffrey, for having me.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, and of course, our website. We're back again tomorrow, so until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.